Welcome back to the Polishing Podcast. My name is Nico, otherwise known as Nico All Powerful, and today is a special episode because Trent, or Pixelated Apollo as he is known online, is gone, and we have a special guest host, and it's Moggi.
Hi, that's me.
That's you. So, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, honestly.
Oh, shock.
It's gonna get a little sappy. And I've thought about having guests on the podcast for a while now, just because it's fun to have other people on. Unfortunately, it's just always lined up that one of us is not here when we have a guest, and you're technically the third guest, but the second guest with like an online presence. My wife sometimes fills in for Trent whenever he's not here and we want to talk about superhero stuff, but you're the second ever person that is like streams or makes content or anything like that.
Yeah, it's me, content creator, coming at you.
Hey, it's better than influencer. I hate that word.
Yeah, I don't really like the word influencer either.
It's icky. It feels icky.
It's just kind of like, yeah, content creators do influence a lot of things, but I don't know. It just seems kind of like shady sometimes. Like, yeah, influencers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, so just to get a little of the intro stuff out of the way, this is the Polishing Podcast. If you're new to the podcast, it starts with games, technology and other things, and then it kind of just, we always say it turns into a dumpster fire where we just ramble about topics. So, I mean, a little self-depreciating humor stuff, but
it feels like home.
So, if you're new, I mean, I don't know how you. Well, I mean, I do know how you stumbled across the podcast because, I mean, other people tweet about it and like it and retweet it on Twitter. But, God, my brain is in 1,000 different directions, which I can get into in a second. But, you know, if you are listening to the podcast on the website, you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, the Podbean app, all kinds of fun places. You just got to search The Polishing Podcast. But, yeah, if you want to plug any of your stuff in the beginning, you can because... You know.
Oh, I'm so bad at plugs. I gotta get better at this. Maybe I can use this as a way to get better. But yeah, I'm Moggi, formerly known as Moggi. Maybe some of you know me as that. Recently switched back to Moggi. You can find me on Twitch/.tv Moggi, Moggi, or on Twitter, Twitter/it's Moggi, because someone took Moggi on Twitter somehow.
There's always one person that has a URL or a display name somewhere. Like Trent's YouTube is Pixelated Apollo 1. Like it has a 1 at the end because someone else has
Who would take
Pixelated
that,
Apollo.
though? It's such a unique name.
I have no idea. And it was before he got like any kind of following on YouTube. It was always been this way that his URL was taken.
It's always that one dude who's always also been inactive for like 9 years.
Yeah.
Did one tweet and then just never showed up again.
Yeah. I've never seen it be not that way. Unless you're like me and you're not in any way an internet personality and you just get your shit all the time, which is awesome. Unless it doesn't fit, which is a thing that a lot of people think my name is spelled with 1 C. That's just because of character limit. My name's spelled with 2, which I don't blame
anyone
for.
That.
Yeah.
I always thought it was 1.
No, it's just character limits. And I'm like, all right, well, it's going to be stupid if I take out an L for all, because then it's Nico Al Powerful, which people might think my name is Nico Al. I don't want that. And then if you take an L off of powerful, then it looks like powerful. And that's, I don't even know what that would be.
Powerful.
Yeah. So I was like, well, a C makes sense. And my dad always said it was supposed to be 1 C, but whatever. There's a whole backstory about my name and all this kinds of bullshit.
Ironically, I actually have the reverse problem that you have, where like my name's only supposed to have 1 G in it, but because of character limit, usually character limits are 5, so I had to like tack on another letter somewhere. So I was like,
And then the weirder thing is there's some places that are like you have to have a minimum of like, let me do the math real quick. Like 15 or 16. I think on Origin it was like 16, so I had to add a Z at the end of my name. I was like, I guess, because it wouldn't let me do an S because it was a explicit word. Fuck it. I was like, that doesn't make sense, but okay. Just I wish there was a standard so that way I didn't have to deal with that garbage.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so this episode, I mean, is a little different, obviously, because one of the co-hosts is gone. He's out on a cruise. He said he was just going on vacation, didn't specify, and I was just like, you know, is anybody gonna get mad if they figure, hey, he's enjoying the Bahamas, drinking Mai Tais on a boat? Like,
yeah,
probably
no one
not.
can really get mad at that. Like, live your best life.
Yeah. Yeah. So usually we start with like what we've been playing recently, and then just what's the word I'm looking for? Diverge from there. Before, the reason I'm so scatterbrained is because we didn't have any coffee beans today. So I saw espresso beans and figured, why not? And I don't know how much caffeine's in espresso, but it feels at least like twice as much than normal. And I haven't felt like this since I first started drinking coffee like 2 years ago.
I feel awake just being like on the podcast with you.
I'm usually not this high energy. I was like, I don't want to get a caffeine headache today, so I'm going to do this. And now I'm twitching, which hasn't happened in a very long time. But yeah, so games and stuff. Recently it's kind of been the same for me since the last podcast. I've been playing the Division 2 a lot. They did an update today that actually put in an FOV slider, thank God, and some other like content and everything to get ready for the raid they're going to drop at the end of the month, which is cool. And then Risk of Rain 2 came out, and that was surprising because I was following the fact that they announced it like a couple years ago, and then they didn't do any other news and just dropped it in early access. It was like, hey, buy it if you want.
It took me completely by surprise, and then I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is a completely different style too, and it's just, dude, it works so well. It's so much fun.
Yeah, like I was on Twitter and I follow like cheap ass gamers just not cheap ass gamers, games to find deals on like certain things. It was like, oh yeah, buy one, get one free, Risk of Rain 2. And I was like, did somebody
Risk
like,
of
is it
Rain
out?
2?
What? And I looked and I was like, this is out? The hell? So that was fun to find out. And it's really fun to play just as like, if you're playing on like Drizzle, the easiest difficulty, you can get like really far pretty easily. And then if you don't play that, you die pretty quickly. But I find it's fun to just put on and then just kind of play. Like, you don't have to like think too much about it. It's like find the teleporter, kill a bunch of stuff. Yeah, there's
just something really addicting about that game. Like Risk of Rain 1 was also just really addicting, and I do think I like this one better than the first one just because it's like more you have to aim, like the first character you start with, you only start with one character. Like you have to actually aim as guns. Yeah.
Whereas in the first game, you could just, since it was 2D, you just shot in the direction of enemies and you hit them.
Yeah, kind of like Terraria.
Yeah. So yeah, those are both cool. I haven't played anything else recently because I knew when I bought the Division 2, I was kind of just going to be playing that for a while, even though stuff has come out that I want to play. But I know how I am, and I know if I don't buy a game when I want to play it, I won't play it, which is how I ended up with a Steam list that's way too long.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah. But what about you, Moggs? How have you been up to recently? I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, I've been just, I tend to be one of those people who are behind a year on new releases because I just recently played God of War, and I find it better that way because a lot of people like want to revisit it and go, oh, I wonder if they changed anything or just like refresh their memory, and it's just like a whole new experience. People who already played it just re-enjoying the game.
Yeah.
And it being my first time, I'm just having a good time. So yeah, I don't mind being the person who's like late to a year release or something like that. But yeah, a lot of God of War and then Risk of Rain 2 as well. And I just recently started Sekiro, I think it's called.
I've heard someone who like knows Japanese pronounce it as Sekiro.
I'm not even going to try that because, yeah.
That's fine.
But that game is probably going to be my game of the year. Like, it's definitely contending. That and Resident Evil 2 have been my two that I've kept on the list so far.
Yeah, I wanted to play Resident Evil 2 while you were playing it, but I also had because Resident Evil 2 was like my favorite of the classic games when I was growing up.
Same.
And, yeah. And then 4 was 4 was my favorite forever because I bought it on my PlayStation 2, I bought it on my Xbox 360, I bought it on my PC.
GameCube, yeah. PC.
I've bought that game so many times. Capcom has milked me dry for Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
And so seeing the 2 remake, I was like, cool, but the Division comes out in 2 weeks and I know myself. So I'm just going to let that sit until it's cheaper and I can play it and not be distracted. And then Sekiro, I mean, I've played every Dark Souls game except for Demon Souls, and then and Bloodborne is my favorite of all of them, to the point where I want a Hunter's Mark tattoo, but
Oh yes.
yeah. So
I'm thinking of Bloodborne tattoo, and I'm probably gonna get a I'm sorry if I butchered this, but a Sekiro tattoo as well.
Yeah. So I want to play it, but I was like, I'm gonna wait because I know that I won't play it right now, and if I do play it, I'll start playing that, and I'll stop playing this. I'm just like, it just makes more sense to wait. So I haven't been watching your streams. I have turned them on and then muted the tab, so that way, because apparently, I found out if you mute the the Twitch player, it like drops you as a viewer after a while. It's like, oh, this person's not actually like engaged or watching.
Yeah, for some reason it just drops you as a viewer list, and that's the problem with the new squad feature that they just re-released, which I'm not sure if you saw or not.
I've seen some people using it, but I've heard also that like if you're watching with squad, since you have to mute somebody, it drops you from their list still.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make any sense because it's up to 4 people, but you're not going to listen to 4 audio slightly off sync with one another. So you're going to mute 3 people and watch 1 person, and then it's just like you don't even count as a viewer for those other people. So yeah. I don't know.
But I don't know if this still works or what, but I use Mozilla for most everything. I think it works on Chrome as well. If you mute the tab through the browser, it never drops you from the list because you're not muting the actual player.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that because I don't want any spoilers for Sekiro. I've been able to avoid everything. I think I watched the first 5 minutes of your stream 2 days ago when you first started. I was like, cool. I know I'm going to play it. I can't watch though.
No, I completely understand. It's something that you should experience on your own, just like get completely immersed in it, especially if you liked Bloodborne as much as you do. Think of Bloodborne, but with, shinobis, and now you can jump. Yeah. So it's just like super cool.
Because I watched to the point where you got the sword at the tower, and then you engaged in like 2 small fights, and I was like, yeah, I already knew I was gonna buy it, but now I no. So
it's such an amazing game, and it really is. I know a lot of people are comparing it to like Dark Souls because of the publisher and whatnot, but it definitely stands alone in its own category because of you literally have to jump to dodge an attack, which is completely new in the series, and you can attack in the air and shit like that, and everything just feels like you're dancing.
Yeah.
And it's just great.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and I know I'm gonna play the hell out of it because, funny enough, out of all of like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, I've only played Dark Souls 2 and 3 blind. Dark Souls 1 I had seen a playthrough of beforehand. I was like, oh, I'll try that. And then Bloodborne, I never thought I would own a PlayStation 4, so I watched an entire playthrough of that, which, if you're like me and you go, that game looks interesting, don't look anything up about Bloodborne. One of the best parts about it is a twist that happens in the middle of the game. And you go, oh, this is not what I expected. And yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the game so much, is I wish I had been able to experience that without watching a Let's Play or a guide or anything. But I legitimately thought I was never going to own a PS4. So I was like, oh, I might as well just watch this.
Honestly, we definitely mirror each other a lot in that, because I didn't think I was ever going to own a PlayStation as well. Just yeah.
So, because I was like, all right, back when I built my PC, I sold my Xbox 360 and every single game I had for it, bought a GTX 660, and was like, I'm going to be playing on PC now. I didn't think I'd ever own a console again. And then...
then all these exclusives come out.
Yeah, and then Bloodborne happened. And I was like, well, all right, I guess I'll do this at some point. I think it's a weird memory for me because I had just met my... she's my wife now, but back when we first met, we were just kind of friends with benefits, which isn't a old thing. Like people know about this story, is where we met, then became friends with benefits just because we were like, whatever, we're both single. She just got back out of a really bad relationship and she wasn't looking to be in one. And I was like, whatever. So that happened. I moved in with her a month after knowing her because the house I lived in was really shitty and I was the only one trying to keep it not shitty. And she was like, "Oh, you got a check from your grandma for like $200. Why don't you deposit that and buy a PlayStation 4?" And I was like, "Okay, you want to take me to the bank real quick?" She's like, "I don't think you'll be able to do it today." I'm like, you don't know how quickly Chase gives my money to me.
Chase. I love Chase so much.
I like them, but I live in the middle of I live in Pittsburgh, like near, I don't want to get too specific here because people are
As
weird
a
on the
native,
internet.
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
But the closest Chase bank is in Ohio. And I'm like, I have family in Ohio, but it's not like, I guess I could be like, "Hey, I'm going to come visit because I got to deposit stuff." But thankfully that hasn't happened and everything's been online. And like anytime I get a check, I can just do, what is it?
You take like a picture of it or something?
Yeah, the
and
picture deposit. Thank God. Because if I had to do anything else, I'd been like, just gotten a new bank forever ago. But yeah, I remember that so clearly and just getting it. And then I played for fucking, I don't even know how long, until like maybe 4 a.m. I was also working night shift at a warehouse, so it didn't mess up my sleep schedule. It was actually just my sleep schedule because I had to work until midnight anyway. So I usually stayed up until 4 a.m. and woke up at noon. But yeah, it's just very specific memory when it comes to getting my PS4.
I think it's pretty cool though. I like that. It's a good story.
Yeah. And then recently I upgraded to play Kingdom Hearts 3 and not have it chug.
Aww.
I know your feelings on the game.
Have you beaten it yet?
Yeah, I beat it a couple months, not months, Jesus, but I beat it a while back because my opinion on the game is that I didn't play the first 2 for difficulty, so I was like, when just beat the game and I was happy with it.
Fair.
But I don't like, my main criticism with the game is that the plot and story hasn't matured at all, even though the entire fan base has grown up, which I understand because it's still it's very clearly still for kids, but I'm like, you could make it to where some of the characters have grown as people.
Well, I think what it is just that the game, it's taken so long across multiple, titles to come together, and I think they were just forced to put, because they reference every single game in Kingdom Hearts 3. And I'm sitting there at the end of the game, praying, please just let this be the game where they put everything together and they make another one, and that one is mature and growing up, and please let's move away from this storyline.
Yeah. And hopefully, but who the hell knows?
Yeah, like you said, I know it's for kids, but at the same time, its fan base is definitely not children anymore. We're all mid-20s, and
I remember playing the first game. I don't know.
I think we're the same age, right?
Yeah, I'm 20. So, okay. How did I forget my own age? 92, 26, turning 27 in August. Okay.
Yeah, we're quite the same age. I'm 26 as well, 27 in November. But yeah, we were 10 years old when this game came out, and now we're gonna be 30 in a couple of years.
Oh man, I love thinking about that.
Kingdom Hearts 4 will finally be out. Yay!
Maybe they might do mobile games on the Switch first or something.
No, I mean, well, bless the Switch. I think it's one of the best consoles to exist.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I don't know if I can handle how many. There's are there 13 games or something for the Kingdom Hearts series?
I think there's 9 or anywhere between 7 or 10, depending if you include the mobile game or whatever you want to include. But yeah.
Though, if it would have been pretty cool from just a reference standpoint if there were 13, since the trilogy
organization.
Yeah. Maybe that's why my head went to that number, but yeah.
Probably. We're all brainwashed now.
Please let me off the ride. But yeah.
Disney World.
I don't want to. That's one of another criticism I have of it. It's just so Disney centric, and there was I get why they did it because they have all of their original characters now, but I do miss the Final Fantasy characters.
Oh, that was so heartbreaking to not have any Final
Yeah.
Fantasy characters. Like I was hoping to see Noct or like grown up Titus or something. And it's just nope.
No.
All Disney. Welcome to the train and the teacups and let me off the ride, please.
Let me off all of these very bright rides, please. um, See, and this is one of the things about the podcast is I remember how we got here, but I don't remember why my brain brought us here. Because
honestly, same. So we're in the same boat.
But yeah, PlayStation, fun.
Oh, right. Your wife told you, or you're then friends with benefits, now
Yeah.
wife. Yeah, the PlayStation. That's how we got here.
Yeah, it was just a nice story. But so I think that's all the stuff I've played recently to get back on track with how this podcast usually goes. Because I'm always the one that's like, okay, how did we get here? All right, let's bring us back. Let's reel us back in real quick. So yeah, I haven't played anything else. It's just been the same stuff. And then I'm pretty sure that was everything for you as well.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm always playing something now that I've gone pure variety and just, blowing through games. They're done before I can even realize. I'm like, well, now I need to stream something else. So, but yeah, it all starts blurring together after a while. So
yeah, cool. So usually, like, if anything is fun or weird or exciting has happened in our daily lives, we could usually talk about it at this point. I know some of you are probably listening going, why are you explaining the way the podcast works during the podcast? Well, because sometimes when you drink too much caffeine, you got to keep your brain on track, because the fast juice messes with it. See, I'm so scatterbrained. Like, I legitimately, while trying to figure out how to say those words, my brain wanted to jump into 3 different topics. Whew, this is the last time I ever used espresso because this is too much. I feel
did you drink like a whole cup of it?
I did, because I didn't.
Oh God.
I didn't think about it at all. I was just like, we've used espresso beans before, but that was also like for both Allie and I. And this time I was just like, this is just all me. And I think this will be fine, right? And it's, whew, I can feel my heart beating.
And now your caffeine addiction has got that much worse. Congratulations.
Basically, I'm hoping that since this is the only time I'm doing this, that I'll be all right and I don't start to get caffeine withdrawal while drinking regular coffee. Because if I do, I'm going to just suffer through that.
Suddenly espresso does nothing for you. Just like, no, what do I do?
I mean,
crack, I guess. Shit.
Oh, I hope not.
And that's how it all started, kids.
Oh, geez. Stay in school.
Don't do espresso.
Don't drink milk, as we've learned. Because so for me, other than drinking espresso in a whole cup of coffee, which you don't do, for those uninitiated in the world of coffee and caffeinated drinks, isn't espresso usually like a very small, like almost shot style glass?
It actually is done in shots, yeah, because for its high concentration of caffeine.
Yeah. So I done what the kids would say fucked up. But other than that, it's the seasons are changing, and my head hurts like it's in a vice grip because that's what happens when the seasons change, and my shitty sinuses. And that's not a fun thing that's happening to me, but it's a thing I have to deal with depending on where I live. In Pittsburgh, it only really seems to change seasons twice a year, where it's either hot or it's cold. So thankfully, I'm
good old Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Coming from Georgia, I'd rather do this than suffer like 7 different times where I'm like, oh, it's changing from winter to spring, and then it's the pollinating with everything being yellow, which I'm allergic to pollen as well, so that was never fun for me. And then it would change from spring to fall, and then it would fall to winter, and I would just be in pain most of the year. Whereas here, it's like, oh, I suffer 2 weeks when the seasons change, and then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have allergies. Like, I'm not allergic to anything in terms of that. So I can't really relate, but I do feel your pain because I see people's eyes watering but yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I got it from, I mean, obviously from my mom. You inherit sinus and allergy problems to anyone that's like, oh, God, I don't have to fear being around you. But it's just like, it just feels like there's just this pressure on the top of my skull and behind my eyes. But thankfully,
Ooh.
Allie has a headband that's too small for my head, but just the pressure of putting this on actually alleviates the pain.
Huh.
Yeah, which I didn't realize until last night. And she's like, I have a headband that you can try, and it worked. And I was able to like be a person. So that was nice.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that for migraines, because my migraines get like that, where it's just like you feel like your head's about to just pop.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I've noticed is for sinus problems, a lot of the time, if you apply pressure to the sinus and then let go, like you can feel that the pain is gone and then it comes back. So that's why I figured, oh, well, if I can find something that's a little tight, but not like cutting off blood flow to my head tight, then it would probably benefit. And it did. And I was like, good job, self. So that's that. Other than that, nothing's exciting's happened. When your boss goes on vacation, you kind of get bored. So I've just been playing
you
games.
Drink a ton of espresso, so yeah.
Yeah, you just chug it like it's fucking Mountain Dew.
Gotta do something.
This is not usually what I would want to do. I'd rather, I don't know, drink water and be not scatterbrained completely. But yeah, I live a very boring life sometimes. But have you gotten up to anything fun and or not fun recently?
I accidentally drank spoiled milk. You might be saying like, well, how did you not know it's spoiled? Well, I used it in my oatmeal and I cooked it, so you can't really tell.
Yeah,
because it's cooked in. And then my girlfriend sniffed the jug of milk I used and went, "Oh, it doesn't smell good." I'm like, "Wait a minute."
Oh no. Yeah.
Hold on. But yeah, I actually got like a minor. I guess it's food poisoning, but it was not pleasant for a couple of hours. But thankfully, I think maybe because most of it cooked away, it wasn't terrible. But yeah, that was not great for me.
Yeah. This morning I had cereal instead of cooking eggs for myself, because usually I'm, like I said, boring person, usually make 2 scrambled eggs in the morning for breakfast. But I was like, I bought some cereal recently. I'm going to do this. So because of your situation yesterday, I sniffed the jug and I was like, I was like, hey, Beb, do you mind smelling this? She's like, it smells kind of weird. I'm like, it's going down the drain.
I'm low-key glad that I kind of like my suffering somehow benefited you. Yeah. In a way.
Yeah. It was like a third of the gallon of milk, but I was like, we didn't finish it in time. Oh, well, it's not.
Yeah, trust me. Not fun. If you fart, you don't want to be in the same room with yourself.
And I can't open the windows because of the season change, and I'll just feel even worse.
You have allergies. Oh no, you just be hotboxing yourself and be trapped.
Oh, that's not. God, usually when people are like hotboxing, it's fun, but this sounds awful. They're like, oh, we're all smoking the marijuanas and it's fun times, and I'm like, I just farted and it's awful, and I'd rather die. But yeah, so I made sure not to do that, and we have. So a weird thing, but not weird. Allie, my wife, is named Allie, obviously. But she is a graduate student at the University of Pitt, and she gets access to their pantry because they don't make enough money as graduate students, even though they're being paid to to teach and to do research to like live most of the time. So they get access to a pantry 2 times a month where they can basically just take as much stuff as they can carry out of it for groceries and stuff. And there's this milk they have there that's not, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't have to refrigerate it, but it is like cow's milk. I don't really get it. It tastes fine. Like, it tastes a little weird, but it's fine. So we don't
have. Do you know the brand name?
Natrel. It's Natrel.
I think I've heard of it, but Horizon is the milk that we use, and something similar. It doesn't have lactose in it or something. I think like it's lactose free, so you can just drink it. But because of that, the milk literally takes like 2 months to spoil. I'm like, is this normal? Is this real milk? What is going on?
Yeah. So like, and it's like, oh, you don't have to refrigerate it until it's opened, and when you do open it, you got to drink it in 7 days or it's gone. And I'm like, okay. It's not.
That's too much pressure. I don't know if I could drink that much milk in 7 days.
Thankfully, they're like half gallons, so it's not that bad. Like, because for those ones we get them because I mean they're free, so we grab it and then just have it, and they don't go bad, so you can just put it in your pantry and just wait until you open it. So, where was I going with this? Wait a minute, I had a thought.
Hold up.
Son of a bitch, where the hell?
Something you cooked eggs with the milk that went bad, and then the pantry at
Oh no.
University of Pitt.
No, I don't. Maybe that I didn't. It doesn't matter that I got rid of the other milk. No, my brain, it's gone. It's gone. Whatever that thought was, it left the station and didn't let me come with it. All right. Well, that's too bad. But anyway, don't drink spoiled milk.
Yeah.
I guess is the just moral of that story. I don't know where else I was going with that.
Spoiled milk, not a fun time.
So we also asked, I asked Twitter some questions, and we didn't get a lot of responses, but we did get a pretty couple good ones. Weird way to say all of those words, but fuck it, I'll roll with it. So I said, if you have any questions for the podcast, reply to this tweet, and we'll see if we can do a little bit of Q&A. Though there is a surprise in the tweet. I said there won't be a Josephine's Corner, but there will be. So the first question that we got was from T-Rex with a shotgun at T-Rex with a shotty. He always does a pun whenever he does any of these questions. Let me ask you a T-Rex-shin. That's a question from me, T-Rex. What are some places you want to travel to? What kind of things do you want to do there? And do French cows say moo la la? And I hate you for that fucking pun.
Oh, it's like the French people on roller coasters. Whee!
But yeah, some of the my entire family hails from Italy and specifically Sicily, so I want to go back there.
We're just the same person.
I mean, I can't say we're not. I've never seen us both in the same. Well, that's not true. I have a picture of us together. So I was gonna say, yeah. I was gonna say that we've never been in the same room together, but that's false. Which actually I have a weird story about that picture because of why I was even at Battle and Brew that night. But I'll get into that after we answer this question, so not to get off track. But I want to go to Sicily for sure because my entire dad's side of the family's from there. And then what else do you do in Italy other than eat delicious food and look at beautiful rolling hills and drink awesome wine? I guess you could go look at art if you like art, but
there's so much to do in Italy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would just do as much as I possibly could and then try to figure out where in Sicily my family came from. I don't know how hard or easy that would be, but I would want to do that because I've never even really looked into it that much. I just know I'm actually not even that far down. My grandfather is full Italian on my dad's side, and his parents, so my great grandparents, are the ones that came off the boat on Ellis Island. So I want to know where exactly they came from, what was going on. Probably could just call my grandpa, but I don't know that I have his number. There's a whole thing with that in our family. So that's another story. But yeah, I would want to do that basically.
I guess is where I answer.
Yes,
but
please.
I wasn't sure if I was a part of the questions or not. But,
yes. I wouldn't have. I guess I could have put in more specific thing for me and you, but I was just trying to get general questions because the last time we did very specific ones, we got a lot of repeats.
Gotcha. Okay. Not to take your answer almost word for word, but yeah, I would want to go to Sicily just because of my dad is 100% Sicilian, and his great grandparents came off the boat from Ellis Island too.
Oh, okay.
And I would just want to go there and it's seeing pictures of it, and just I don't feel like pictures do it justice, even though they're so beautiful. But yeah. I would go look at the waters because apparently the waters are so crystal clear that you can just see through them.
Yeah. And
go look at the art section and look at all the markets with the authentic, handbags. No, even though I couldn't afford any of them, I would still go look at them. But yeah, I would just love to go there. I've always wanted to, and I don't have a passport, but if I ever do get the money and a passport, that'd be my first place to go.
Yeah, I used to have a passport. I don't know if I still. I mean, if I don't have it, because when I was a kid. I went to Canada with my grandma. I think. Well, did I have a passport? Did I need a passport?
No, you didn't need one back then because I also went to Canada as a kid with my grandma. What the heck, Nico? No.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. If this is true, this is getting weird.
This is ultra weird. I'm actually kind of bugging. I feel like I'm on espresso now. Hold on.
I mean, I don't knock it. Espresso. I mean, it's weird to be jittery, but like it kind of feels good. I don't know.
It's the addiction talking.
Maybe. But yeah, like we went to see Niagara Falls on the Canadian side, and my grandma was just like, "We're gonna go do that," and I couldn't remember if I had a passport or she just needed my birth certificate or what.
If you were like 10 to 14 or whatever, you didn't need one because I went when I was like 7 to 14 or something like that. Yeah.
I know I wasn't 10 because when I was 10, my grandma took us to Disney World in Florida. So I must have been, it was probably between 11 and 14 because when I was 15, I stopped coming up to Ohio to visit my grandparents because I was a teenager and I didn't need to do that. I could watch myself in the summer.
Rebellion.
Yeah. Rebellion. Slept till noon, stayed up way too late, played video games.
And here we are.
Yeah. But yeah. My brain. Okay, wait. I had a story because of a story. Oh no. The picture. So I had to go through Twitter because I recently got a new iPhone, and even though I did the cloud thing, it didn't actually give me all my pictures. And
Google did that to me too.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's gonna sync everything, and even if you don't do like ask me to upgrade the storage, and I was like, well, what if I prioritize this over this? And it's like, well, then it should do all of your pictures and all of that, and then the other stuff. It's like, okay, and then I went through and I'm like, the most current pictures are on here when we were trying to get rid of our car a couple months ago, so that clearly didn't work. But thankfully I had tweeted this picture out twice, where I met you at Battle and Brew. And unfortunately, our picture's like blurry because I don't know why. It was like a selfie picture. And then I guess I just couldn't hold my camera steady because I wasn't used to taking selfies. But this was like, oh, Lord. I'm trying to think, like 5 or 4 years ago.
Oh, we're so old.
I had literally just moved out of my brother's house and was living on my own with a roommate and stuff. And the funny thing about that night was I was actually on a date with a girl when I noticed you and DM were talking to KP from High Res at Battle and Brew, and when I went to take a picture, even DM was like, I really hope you weren't listening to what we were talking about because you're not supposed to know any of that stuff, because I played Smite and that's how I knew about the both of you. And I was like, I'm on a date. So I just noticed you guys were here and wanted a pictures, but I wasn't paying attention because that would be rude.
Yeah, I actually remember that. We were sitting kind of back in the corner. But yeah, we were talking about actually Gearbox at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's why you weren't supposed to hear any of that.
That makes way more sense. I mean, because I think at the time, it was right before KP, like, I think, because he was a God designer for a second, a lead on a couple of them. And I think that's right before his gods came out, and then he left to go to Gearbox, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
So that makes way more sense now. But yeah, it's funny that I was on a date with a girl at the time, and I was just like, I know those people, and I want to take a picture. Hopefully this isn't the wrong thing to do on a date.
No, at least you had, the, I guess the courage, for lack of better words, to come up to us, because a lot of people, they always tweet at me like, oh, I saw you and I wish I came up to you. I'm like, well, if you saw me, you could just come up to me. Like, for some reason people are like really afraid of me and I don't know why.
I think so. My wife likes this Viner that lives in Pittsburgh, and she's seen him 3 or 4 times around the city because he goes to Pitt, and it's one of her favorite like Viners back when Vine was a thing, because he did really funny stuff, but it was never like gross or rude or like anything like that. It was just kind of like, oh, college, I'm really poor, shit, kind of like relatable humor because she's in college again and poor. And she was like, I keep seeing him, but I never said anything. I'm like, just all you have to do is like, hi, I'm a fan of yours, and that's about it. Like, it's not that awkward, but I get it.
No, it's really not. And like at the same time, it's kind of like a low-key compliment, because you're just like, oh, I recognize you from the internet and I like your work. Like, that's no one's gonna really get mad at that, and if they do, they're probably just having a bad day and unfortunately took it out on you. Which personally I've never done, I don't think. I might have been like mildly rude to someone once, but it definitely was not intentional.
Because I mean, most people are gonna be like, oh, thanks, cool, you know. Which
exactly, that's pretty much the response, like, oh, cool, yeah, we can take a picture, whatever you want to do. Like,
so that was funny. I just always think about that story because it was like the first date with this girl who I really liked. Also, not my wife, so you can tell how that turned out. Not because of that, but there's a whole other thing. I know Trent has a story with how somebody recognized him while he's at his friend's wedding. They were like, oh, so you like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a YouTuber. He's like, oh, really? What do you do? Like, do you like, what kind of videos do you make? He's like, oh, I make video game stuff. What video game? Total War. Oh, really? I watch Total War videos. He's like, oh yeah, I'm Pixelated Apollo. And the guy was like, what the fuck?
Right.
Because if you don't like, because since he's like mostly a YouTuber, he doesn't have a lot of like gameplay with his face, because it's all like a lot of videos that are like, because since he started back before people really got into face cam, even on like YouTube video game stuff, he doesn't post a lot of pictures of his face, or he doesn't do a lot of, he didn't do a lot of streaming at the time, so nobody really, like, every once in a while he would do like a video where he just had an announcement or whatever, but like nobody really knows what he looks like because it's not always out there, you know. So it's like recognizing somebody's voice based off just their voice is way harder.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Which is why people complaining about superheroes and their voices is kind of dumb, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't know that argument, but I don't know much about superheroes at all. So.
Well, it's just like the argument. It's like, how does nobody know that Bruce Wayne's Batman? Can't you just tell by the voice? It's like, no, you can't. There's so many different things. Like I mean, it's just to like not go into the topic because it's not that like, it's a whatever topic. Like, it's just like, if you're in trouble, your adrenaline is rushing, you're not thinking properly, and then Batman showed up, you're not going to remember what Batman sounded like.
Yeah, that's true. Now you say that, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I always thought that was a funny story. Going back to where we were originally. Next question. Josh Irvine. Maybe I should have said I was going to say the person's name and stuff. Look, if you didn't want your name out there, don't use it as your Twitter profile. At Tegraystorm says, what are some of your favorite comedy commentary podcasts or YouTube channels if you're not into any podcasts? Also, he knows Pittsburgh pretty well, and if you haven't been to Mad Mex or BRGR yet, they're pretty tight. I'm going to hit on that last part before the first part. I don't like Mad Mex that much because it's Cali Mex food. And I like more traditional Mexican food because I grew up in Georgia and that's a lot of what's in there. And then BRGR is fine, but I prefer Burgatory. It's not hating, not trying to be dramatic. Mad Mex has potato taquitos and I like my beef burritos regular. But yeah, but podcasts and stuff, I've constantly talked about the podcast I love called Dynamic Banter. It's the main what's the word I'm looking for, inspiration for this podcast, which is just me, like, it's two friends who happen to be comedians and or just funny people trying to make each other laugh while talking about stuff and catching up. And the only problem with this podcast is harder to do because I'm constantly working with the person. So we got to come up with other topics, or it'd just be us going, yeah. You did that. Okay. Yeah. It's a lot harder to be like, oh, we're catching up with each other when we talked yesterday about how many views a video got.
Yeah, I have that same issue with my podcast partner too, because we're just like really good friends and know everything about each other. So we have to force ourselves to not talk to each other so we can be on the podcast like, yeah, this happened today.
Yeah, a shitty thing is on the last episode we did, there was a whole conversation topic we had right before I hit record, because I hit record, tried to, like, the last episode was called Don't Mention the Weather, and it's because I, for whatever reason, always go, it's a sunny day or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody cares. And I was like, we had a whole thing where before I started the podcast again, where we talked about how dumb it was for me to mention the weather. So that was lost because I forgot to press record again.
Aww.
But it just like there have been so many funny things that could have happened had we been recording, but that's just, you know, when you're friends with somebody, that's what you do. You joke with each other.
Yeah.
But there's that, and then I don't watch a lot of funny or comedy stuff on YouTube, unfortunately. It's mostly just that. I guess technically Mike Falzone's YouTube channel, because he's one of the two in Dynamic Banner, and he's been doing a lot of interviews with other local comedians in LA and stuff, which have been really interesting. Basically just people coming in and kind of critiquing their own style and learning from their past mistakes, which is cool when you like comedy. But that's about it on my end. And then your podcast, but
Aw, thank you.
It's
that's a Patreon exclusive right now, but it may be different in the future.
Yeah. But I mean, that's still one of the ones I'm listening to. Though, would you specify it as comedy, or is it like more talk and then, you know, sometimes funny stuff happens?
That podcast is in the vein of we're going to talk about whatever we're feeling at the time, and then it's going to turn into a dumpster fire of comedy and just, like, you know how it is. Like, you just get off topic, but it's not in a bad way. It's just it's just what happens with two friends who know each other really well. But in terms of, like, things that I'm listening to, I honestly only listen to the TED Radio podcast and Jenna and Julian. And same thing for YouTubers. I watch Jenna a lot, and that's why she has a podcast called Jenna and Julian. And it's just kind of like how this podcast is, and my podcast, where it's just people kind of hanging out and just discussing things, and you know, it's just really relaxed. It's not like educational or anything like that. It's just a good time, and I don't know, it's just fun. And for the food debate, I have no idea what you guys are talking about, so I'm gonna go with the answer you said. Okay.
It's just that he mentioned 2 restaurants in Pittsburgh, but I've gone to both of them, and I think they're not bad. When I want Mexican food, I like traditional Mexican food. Like, no,
I agree with you absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas Mad Max,
you said like Philadelphia or you know, Lancaster or Wilkes-Barre, like, I've probably been like, I can join in this conversation. But Pittsburgh, not so much. Yeah,
because like the only thing I don't like about Mad Mex is that it's Cali Mex, so California Mexican like hybrid. So there's a lot of dishes where it's like, oh, we have tofu burritos, and I'm like, there was already a vegetarian option for burritos, and it's the beans. This is, I mean, if you like tofu, great, but I'm just like, what? I don't understand California's diet thing with tofu. I get wanting to eat healthy, but I don't understand tofu.
Yeah, it's hard in my experience to get it seasoned correctly. Otherwise, it's kind of just like gelatinous cubes in your mouth, and you're like, don't know about this one.
But yeah, so neither one of those restaurants are bad by any like regard. It's just I don't prefer them. There's other stuff that I like, but the one restaurant that I want to mention is too close to where I live, so I'm not going to mention the Mexican place I like.
Redact it.
Yeah, and then the last question comes from Dan George at Dan George _19. Why do you think people are afraid of changes? Oh, that's a deep one, actually.
That is a long discussion. Next podcast.
Yeah. I mean, to hit on it a little, just like very like surface level, why don't people like change? It's hard to change. Like it's like if like where do I want to come at this from? Like as a person, sometimes you don't recognize the things you're doing need to change because you've been doing them for so long. And then the idea of changing who you are is scary because you wonder whether or not you'll lose yourself to that. Because it's like, well, if this is who I am, what happens if I'm not like that? I think, you know, I don't know. This might be too philosophical for my caffeinated brain to really like dial in on.
I think it's like kind of like what you said, where it's the fear of the unknown. There's no security blanket. If you change something, or rather if you keep doing the same thing, you have that security blanket of like, okay, I know what to expect from this. Yeah. And I know it's going to happen. The outcome is usually all the same. But if you try to change that outcome, you don't know what it's going to be. So it's very, very, it's being afraid of failure, rejection, whatever may come, and, whatever you're changing in your life. But personally speaking, I think change is wonderful, and it's how I've grown the most. It's just like throwing myself out there, and like everything's different around me. And I'm like, oh shit. But eventually you can figure it out. And but yeah, that's another whole topic anyway. But I just think it's just the fear of the unknown, honestly.
Yeah, because I mean, oh boy, like if like you said, if it's like. Because change can happen in anything. If you're changing your relationship status from single to potentially with someone, that's the whole fear of rejection because you don't know. It's like, do they like me? Do they like me as much? Do they even know if I exist? Or like your brain will run through 1,700 different scenarios. Thanks, anxiety. Before you come to a logical one to where you're like, I need to chill out because this is way too much thinking before I even ask a question. And I think that's another thing that happens is anxiety causes you to think of every possible scenario before you even do the thing. And then you're like, well, all of these things are terrible. And it's like, yeah, but it could just be the one that's not. So.
Or it could not happen at all.
Yeah.
Is what I've been learning. It's just like, I stopped trying to think of all the things that could go wrong. And just if something does go wrong, I'll deal with it then. Because I trust myself to be able to get myself out of that situation.
Yeah. So I think those are the very top basic reasons for.
Yeah, that question could be a whole podcast, honestly. It's such a deep question.
Yeah, that could be an hour plus conversation, depending on how deep you get into it. But I appreciate it because it's a good one. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so that's all the questions. Unfortunately, I was kind of dumb and didn't tweet this out. What's the right word for this? Not soon enough, but not. I tweeted it too late. There we go. That works. That's easy to think about. So that we could have gotten more had I been like, I should announce that we're doing this. But sometimes you don't because you're lazy. I'm going to be honest with myself. I did it because I didn't think about it and was just lazy. I'll hang myself out to dry. I know what I did. Yeah, so usually this is where we would have Josephine's Corner to kind of close out the podcast. And I originally said that wasn't going to happen, but I got a text from Trent saying he got a satellite phone so he can call in to tell us how she's doing. So I'm going to buzz him in real quick.
She's good.
Okay. Is it? I think that was it. I think he did say it was expensive, so I think he could only afford 2 words. Anyway, if there's anything else you would like to talk about, Moggs, we can, but I think it's been about 54 minutes or so, not excluding time I have to cut out, so it's still a decently sized episode.
I can't do math, so I don't know how long it's been, but
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. My wife told
okay.
me that gays can't do math because she's bi, so she can't do math. So I didn't mean.
It's honestly not even a stereotype. It's just true. Gays can't math.
I love the I think I saw it first on Tumblr, but it's like when you're gay and you have to split a tip, and then the picture just shows 3 people and it says we're gonna die here.
I was just like, okay, it was $20, $8 tip. Here we go. So it's just like, I know it's completely wrong and it's over tipping, but I'd rather over tip than try to do the math on that.
Oh man, but yeah.
But no, I don't actually. I don't think I have anything to really say that would. I think if I asked anything, it would drag the podcast on for like another hour, to be honest. So no, but it was really fun being on here, and thank you for having me.
Of course, and I mean, I would like welcome you back on when Trent is back, so that way I was gonna. Okay, that's not the right phrasing. I'm glad my brain's moving faster than my mouth at this point, because usually I would have said something stupid there. We could have a 3-man podcast. There we go. That's not sexually suggestive.
I know what you're gonna say. Okay.
But yeah, that way we could because we've never had a podcast where both hosts were here and a guest, which I think could be fun if a little chaotic. So you're welcome to come back anytime.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to be back.
Cool. So look forward to that. That's about it for this episode. My name is Nico. I'm going to plug all the things again because I forgot one in the beginning. I always get to the end of the podcast and go, you forgot one. Oh, well, if you listen for this long, you're somebody who actually cares. So that's good. And I want you to visit these things. If you are not listening on iTunes, I would say please do that and leave a rating and write out a review. It helps a lot with, other people seeing the podcast. But if you like to listen on Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, that's fine too. I can see all the analytics. Just one of them is more specific in helping the podcast grow, if you don't mind. Nico Powerful on Twitter, Nico Powerful on Twitch. It's inconsistent, but it's been happening in the morning recently because I've been bored in the morning and playing games, so I figured why not stream it. And then I think that's everything for the podcast. So if you want to plug your stuff again, Moggs, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Moggi, Moggi. You can find me on Twitch under the same thing, or Twitter with an It's Moggi. And I'm live pretty much every day. Variety streamer, really chill, immersive streamer. And yeah, I think that's all my plugs.
Cool. So that's the Polishing Podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And so usually we both say something at the end. So if you wouldn't mind saying Trent's thing, that would be great. So
okay, what is it?
He says, "Stay clean, stay polished."
Okay. Do we say it at the same time, or do you say yours and then I say it?
You would say it first, and then I would say my thing.
Okay.
So
you ready?
I'm ready.
It's stay clean, stay polished?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one doesn't count. All right. All right, thanks for listening, guys, and stay clean and stay polished.
And son of a bitch, I messed mine up. I say it every time. Whatever. God bless.